Hi, my name's Denny Stevens. I'm going to give my testimony, but my wife's got to start it off.
So, given his testimony, we just want to show the true meaning behind Philippians 4:19. And it tells us that, but my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory by Jesus Christ. Christmas this year was a little different for us. Several days before Christmas, Denny developed the upper respiratory crud. So we started doing some home remedy, breathing treatments, inhaler. He began to feel a little bit better. He just didn't have very much of an appetite. And then on Christmas Eve, he went to his mom's to celebrate, but he ended up staying in the bed. Then on Christmas Day, we tried to celebrate here. He ended up staying most of the day in the bed. The day after Christmas, which was a Thursday, he took our daughter to the doctor, dropped her off, was feeling a little bit better. That night I told him he had to eat something because he had not eaten in days. He said okay, tried to eat a little bit. The grandkids began opening presents as he was sitting at the table. They were over there opening presents, having a ball, playing. Do you remember the kids opening presents?
No.
Well, I happened to look over at him and looked like he was looking right through me. So I asked him, I said, do you want to come to your chair? And he said yes, but he couldn't stand up. It took my son and I to get him to his chair. Our other daughter called 911. When they came, his oxygen was only 80%. So they admitted him to the hospital. His diagnosis was pneumonia. Well, about 3 a.m. Friday morning, he was admitted to ICU because he was having trouble breathing. At that point, he was sedated and intubated and stayed that way all day on Friday. Saturday morning, they started turning down his oxygen and they were able to extubate him, take the tube out. He was doing very well. Everything was good. Well, after lunch, he started getting really agitated. He started moaning and acting confused. It got a little bit worse throughout the night. Well, Sunday morning we woke up, he had some swelling in his eyes, which I knew wasn't normal. So I asked them to do a CT. They said everything was clear. They just felt like he needed to dialyze some more. He had lost a good bit of weight just within a few days. And that night was much worse. The moaning, very agitated. He didn't talk anymore that day after about 2 o'clock, and that was on Sunday. Well, Monday morning, I asked for a transfer, and they wanted to know where. I said, well, I wanted him to go to MUSC because he was already a kidney transplant patient, so I just felt like it would be easier. Had several people come in and tell me it could take hours upon hours to get a transfer, and a lot of times MUSC didn't have any beds. So again, I think we have favor from God. The doctor agreed on a transfer around 10:30 that morning, and he had a room and was leaving at 1:30 that afternoon. Everyone said that was really unheard of. Do you remember anything about being at Toomey?
My earliest memories, a friend of ours, Jimmy Bird, I remember him standing at the foot of my bed with his arms crossed like this, staring at me. And that's all I remember, but I remember I couldn't say anything.
You described how he looked when you woke up. What did he look like to you?
He looked very concerned.
Again, things were just lined up by God, and I didn't even know it at the time. We had several friends that were there that asked, how was I going to get there? Who was taking me? I said, no, I'm fine. I'm going to drive because we're going to probably be there a few days, and, then we'll drive home. Well, my friends weren't standing for that, so they ended up driving me. Someone else drove my car so that I would have my car there. And he arrived at MUSC at 3:27 in the afternoon. Me and my friends got there around 4 o'clock to get the diagnosis that Denny had had a stroke. He was back on the ventilator and sedated. So just in the blink of an eye, our world changed. But I had friends with me, thank God, that stayed with me all night. Friends that I didn't even know I needed at that time to go with me. God had already lined it up for them to be there and for other friends to come and stay that night. Tuesday was New Year's Eve. He really had no change. He wasn't responsive. Again, wonderful friends came and stayed the night. Wednesday was New Year's Day, and he grew some infection. He was put on an antibiotic, but he was still fighting the ventilator and non-responsive. So on Thursday, which was January 2nd, the doctors couldn't get him to respond at all. So I asked him if it was okay if I tried. Well, they all looked at each other and said, sure. I just got really close to him, tapped on his chest, and asked him to open his eyes. Well, he did. He opened his eyes. But the doctors continued to tell me that, okay, that was progress, but once he can open his eyes more with command, and the biggest thing, if he would stick out his tongue, then we could say he was on the road to recovery. So I just prayed over him. And I told him we had so many people praying for him that he was totally prayed over, and he just needed to fight on the inside and let God do the healing, because I knew he was going to get better. And I had a tingling come over my body like I had never felt before. Miss Cicely was there with me, and she said the power of the Holy Spirit was so strong in that room. It was amazing. And that same day he was taken off the EEG because they had seen no seizure activity. That Friday, the next day, they did a temporary hemodialysis. They were trying to get his kidneys filtered out totally clean, because they said with the stroke, where it happened, he still should not be as unresponsive and stuff as he was. So I got him to lock eyes with me that day. And the nurse said, well, I still can't count that as a command. So what I did, I got over him again, tapped on his chest, and I said, Denny, I need you to give me a big blink so they know you understand me. Well, he did. He gave the biggest blink, opened his eyes, closed them, and looked at me. And the nurse said, well, I guess I can count that as a command. So that Saturday, after we got there on Monday, they took him off the ventilator. Lo and behold, Neuro comes in, asks him to stick his tongue out, And he did. To God be the glory. He told him what his name was. What did you say your name was?
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. They got a kick out of that. And he told him what my name was.
Little Mama.
Little Mama. So he did give them a good laugh. A few more days went by. We had some visitors. Well, that following Monday, he starts grunting again. Neuro comes in, tells me he's declining. That day, he only said, "I love you." So we just continued to pray. We prayed harder. We had people all over praying harder. I would sing songs to him. I would play videos for him of Christian music. I played videos of his dad for him, who has passed away. I played videos of his grandchildren. I showed him pictures of his grandchildren. Anything that would help jog his memory of anything that he needed. On January the 8th, which was Wednesday after Monday, is when he started declining. Again, Miss Cicely was in there with me. Trevor was in the waiting room. That morning we had been singing in the room, JJ Weeks, and he likes a group called Home Free. And he had been singing some of the choruses. But the biggest thing, we were watching youth service that night, and Mackenzie Green was singing, "I am who you say I am." And even though he had not said a whole lot in the past few days, he sang, "I am a child of God. Yes, I am." And you talking about a hallelujah, praise the Lord moment. If Cicely and I could have run down the halls of that ICU, we would have. But again, God gave me, as I kept calling them, espresso shots of faith to let me know he was still in control and he had this. I didn't have anything to worry about. He was still taking care of everything. Do you remember singing with Mackenzie?
No.
Did you see the video where you sang with Mackenzie?
No.
You have seen it now.
Mm-hmm.
So we start PT because at first, could you move anything?
No, I couldn't talk either.
They got him sitting in a chair. Still, he had not talked a whole lot. One day at therapy, he did tell the therapist he was feeling some type of way. We never could really get him to say what type of way. But he did give us a little laugh that day because that came out of nowhere. And he got all of his tubes out except his feeding tube. And for a few more days, it was pretty much the same thing, just doing PT and a little bit of OT at the bedside until January the 12th on a Sunday. He got moved to a regular room. He started talking a lot more. He actually talked to his best friend on FaceTime and was cutting up, laughing, having emotions that we had not seen him have in a while. There again, that was my espresso shots of faith to get me through. He started with some movie lines I had never heard of, but We laughed, had fun. So he started actually doing a little bit more with PT in the days to come. Then on January the 15th, speech came in, and they said he had to do a swallow test to be able to eat. Never heard of that, but then once we figured out that they didn't want him to choke on anything, that made a lot of sense. Did you pass the swallow test?
Yes.
Did you like the pureed food that you got to start off with?
No.
Nah. So
Baby food is not my thing.
So he said, I want to try regular food. So they ended up letting him try some regular food. And what was the first thing that you wanted to eat? You remember?
Salad from Olive Garden.
Yeah, but then you wanted a certain type of candy bar.
Mounds.
And what kind of drink?
Yoo-hoo.
Of course, I made a little trip to the Walgreens and maybe found those. We won't tell them, right? So on January the 23rd, we were moved to acute rehab at Toomey. But before that, I had to get a very specific prayer because they wanted to go ahead and move him to just a rehab. Well, we wanted him closer to home so he could see more of his friends and family. And so I asked a select group of friends that I knew would be praying. And we did open it up to the church. We just didn't give all the information behind why we needed to pray. But we had to have him pass that swallow test fully to be able to eat everything because he's a dialysis patient. We do home dialysis, and he could not go to a nursing home not being able to swallow. So they would give him a feeding tube. And his wishes are not to be on hemodialysis. That's why he only did a few temporary rounds. And he would have gotten put on hemodialysis to go to an actual nursing home because they don't do home dialysis. Hence to why we do it at home. So we took our petition to the church, and they just prayed that he had to pass that swallow test. And as you heard, he passed it with flying colors the first try. He passed every stage of it immediately. There again, God lined up everything so that we could be back home, get things somewhat back to normal, and figure out what our new normal was going to be. Do you remember leaving and coming to Toomey?
Yes. That was a very bumpy ride from Charleston in the ambulance.
And when we got to the acute rehab in Toomey on the 5th floor, were you able to walk?
No.
Could you use your left hand?
I could use my left hand, but I couldn't use my right.
So they worked with you every day. You had therapy every day except Saturday and Sunday. 3 times a day?
4 or 5 times a day.
Lots of times a day. They worked with everything.
And every day except Sunday.
So the lady across the hall that you met in therapy, she had the same kind of stroke as you?
Yeah. She was paralyzed from neck down.
She was only able to use one hand, right?
A little bit of one hand.
How did you feel when you saw her?
Thankful that I wasn't like that.
I remember you came and you told me that could have been me. That could have been me. And I said, but you feel like God has something in store for you? And you said,
Yes.
And I have to share how good God's been to me. You stayed in rehab at Toomey for 27 days. We came home on February the 18th. He had some wonderful people that took care of him, that helped him. Even there was a few times that he had a few setbacks there with blood pressure dropping. Several things. We had several things that just came into play. We had to get some meds straight. We had to get a lot of things just back right. But we had a lot of people that took good care of him. And since then, he had home health for several weeks that came to our house. He had a nurse that came. He had an occupational therapist that came and a physical therapist that came. And he has been, since all of them discharged him, they stayed about a month, so probably to mid-March, which is now the end of May. Can you use your right hand, Denny? Can you show them if you can use it?
Yes.
Can you walk?
Yes.
Can you show them?
I just can't write.
But you're starting to.
But I'm starting to write, and I can write my name. I just can't write it in cursive. I can feed myself a little bit with my right hand now. But when I was in the hospital, I couldn't. I had to be fed.
You had to be fed, you had to be washed, you had to be everything. Do you take a shower on your own now?
Yes. I couldn't even go to the bathroom by myself when I was in the hospital.
And you do that now?
Oh yeah.
You get to take showers and all now when you want to. You don't have to wait on other people.
Yes. And I do believe in the Big Bang Theory. And for you that don't understand what I'm saying, you probably have heard of Emeril Lagasse, the chef, and he goes, bam! And my thoughts on it is God spoke it. He spoke about heavens and the earth. He created it. And he said, bam! And it was done. And that's why I believe in the Big Bang Theory.
So you said he said you're to be healed, and bam.
That's right.
And even though it hasn't happened instantly, it's happening over time. It's because it's in his time, not ours.
Everything happens in God's time.
You can't fight it. You can't make it happen. If it's not his time and it's not his will, it won't happen. You got to have faith and you got to trust him. Is it always going to be easy? Not totally, but you got to be prayed up, prayed over, and have friends to help carry you through. And if you don't learn anything from any of this, not only did he get a healing, he's still getting a healing. You got to have people behind you that help you pray and help carry you when you feel like you can't carry yourself. You got to have the word hidden in your heart. You got to know the word. You got to say the word in your mind. Because not only did Denny teach everyday people his testimony, he taught lots of doctors. Because I can guarantee you, it's in his paperwork that hospice was recommended. And for those of you who don't know what that means, that's who they call in for the last days. So when I got him to open his eyes and when I got him to try to do some responding, every time we always said, to God be the glory. And I think you had a sign in your room that my best friend sent to you. And what did it say? To God be the glory.
Yeah.
Because we wanted them to see that when all this was over and everything was done, that no matter what the doctors say, and we appreciate everything that they say and everything they did, God has the final say on all of it. What's your favorite thing to do? Because, you know, we've kind of been stuck inside and all this because of the corona, because we are trying to be safe during this time because he is high risk. So what is your favorite thing to do that you've been doing since?
Drive my golf cart in the neighborhood.
And he loves it. It gets him out of the house. It gets him around. He gets to just look at things and just, once again, be thankful for everything the Lord has created.
I've started listening to the Bible app while I ride my golf cart. And I want to say, to God be the glory.
For everything he's done. The Lord provided so much, and when all this started, I had no idea. But had this not happened when it did, right before a holiday, people wouldn't have been able to stay with me. I had someone stay with me every night up until I had a wonderful cousin after a couple weeks at the hotel. Wonderful cousin, and I can't thank Miss Pat enough, that let me stay at her house that was right down the road. Elizabeth and my best friend Stephanie created a GoFundMe and sent people my PayPal. I never paid for one night at the hotel myself. I probably never paid for one meal. And when we got home, I was thinking, you know, I used all my PTO, was wondering, how am I going to get him to his appointments? How am I getting to all this therapy? Once again, God ordained all of it. That we've had friends, family, that I can't thank enough, that have helped me get him to all of his appointments, so that I've even been able to build back up PTO so that we can take some time and enjoy each other in the months to come. So no matter what you're going through, like I told you in Philippians 4:19, God is going to provide. He's already provided a way before we even know that we need that way. Thank y'all for listening.
I want to say thank you to my church family, Bethesda Church of God. I look forward to seeing y'all this coming Sunday.
Thank you to all of our friends and family that prayed, that called, that texted. No matter how you helped, you helped. Trust me, you helped. And we love y'all, and we thank you. We can't thank you enough.